All right, welcome back in. It is a special edition of What's Right with Nick Wright, the 50 greatest players of the last 50 years. And today was number 3. It was one Michael Jordan.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
Nick Wright is undoubtedly one of the biggest LeBron James fans, not only in the media, but in the entire sports industry. And over the past couple of years, when it comes to Jordan versus LeBron, he's been staunchly in LeBron James' camp. And for virtually all that time, he's had Jordan or LeBron in the top 2 spots. But very recently, he hit a top 50 list of the best players of the last 50 years. And when it comes to Jordan, he was 3rd on Nick Wright's list. And if you watch Nick's 45-minute video breaking down Jordan and his overall career, it's actually pretty informative as was objective. And his one major point throughout the video of why Jordan isn't higher is due to his prime not being as long as Kareem or LeBron James.
But Jordan also does not have the body of work that Kareem and LeBron have.
Now, that in isolation is fine and acceptable, but looking at Nick's overall list, that logic is not consistent across the board. As at number 20, he has Luka Doncic ahead of KG, James Harden, Allen Iverson, Kawhi Leonard, CP3, David Robinson, among other superstars. Now, I'm a big Luka Doncic fan, but Luka at this point has no MVPs, no finals appearances, no championships, nothing of note in his career so far. He has one decent playoff run, and that's it. And somehow, despite that, Nick Wright put him top 20 with virtually no longevity. That right there is a major contradiction that invalidates the critique of Jordan having a shorter prime. Now, even with that being said, let's let Nick defend himself and argue Kareem over Jordan.
So why do I have Kareem ahead of Michael Jordan? Quite simply, he did so much more in the league.
So less than 10 seconds in and Nick Wright is already lying and not telling the truth. As looking at Kareem, he definitely was highly accomplished, but compared to Jordan, he's a hair behind. As comparing the two players, Michael Jordan has more finals MVPs, scoring titles, steals titles, all defensive teams, as well as defensive player of the years. And in Jordan's career, he has 2 three-peats compared to Kareem's 0. And I really want to hammer this point home. Looking at the modern NBA post-Bill Russell, there's been 3 three-peats. Michael Jordan is responsible for 2 of those. And one thing I do want to point out, yes, Jordan and Kareem both have 6 championships. When it comes to these 6 titles, Jordan in those series was much better than Kareem. Not just the stats, but the overall play as well as consistency. As in Jordan's 6 finals appearances, he won the MVP all 6 times. Compared to Kareem, who won it 2 times in 10 trips and was outplayed numerous times by various players. And one of the few things Kareem has on Jordan is more MVPs. But I do want to point out, he won one of those with a 40-42 record and missed the playoffs. When comparing Jordan versus Kareem, Jordan accomplished more in less time. To me personally, that's highly impressive.
I've heard Kevin Wildes and others say, well, yeah, LeBron's 10 trips to the finals. If he had 6 rings with those 10 trips, then that would be more impressive than Jordan's 6 rings and 6 trips. Well, that's Kareem. 10 trips to the finals with 6 rings, and by the way, also 6 MVPs.
Now, once again, Nick Wright is being highly disingenuous, saying Kareem 6 equals Jordan 6, when he very well knows Kareem was not the best player on all those championships. Looking at 1982 versus Philadelphia, Kareem in that series averaged 18 points, but was not the finals MVP. Looking at 87, he averaged 22, and in 88, a pitiful 13.1. When it comes to Michael Jordan, his career average in the finals was 33.6, and his lowest output in the series was 27.3. In Kareem's 10 finals appearances, only twice did he average above 27.3 points. 8 times in the finals, he scored less than Jordan's worst ever series. And one thing for Jordan that is highly impressive, in all 6 finals, he was never outplayed or even outscored, compared to Kareem, who in 10 finals appearances was outscored 18 times, by Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, Vinnie Johnson, James Worthy, Magic, Byron Scott, Adrian Dantley, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Moses, Dr. J, Andrew Toney, and Jamal Wilkes. Adding very important context, Jordan's 6 championships are more impressive than Kareem's 6.
What about scoring, which is what Jordan did best? Well, Kareem had the most unstoppable shot in NBA history. He also set the record for most points in a career before I was born and holds it to this day. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 15 seasons, finished top 5 in MVP voting. Michael Jordan did not play 15 complete seasons.
So I guess Nick wants to go there, looking at Jordan versus Kareem, and who was the better overall scorer. Once again, looking purely at total points, it's highly misleading, as Michael Jordan easily was the better scorer. And I don't want to bore you guys, but here's some stats to back up my points. Looking at Jordan's career, he has the highest scoring average in the playoffs, as well as regular season, and when it comes to finals, he's second all time. Looking at individual playoff series, he averaged above 40 points 5 times, an NBA record, with a 10-time playoff scoring champ. And from 86 to 98, not once he got scored in a playoff series. And looking at 1993, he had the highest scoring average ever in a championship run, and 92, the most ever total points in a playoff run in general. And even going more in depth, 7 straight years he was the NBA's leading scorer, which is a record all time. And when it comes to 30-point seasons, he is the most ever consecutively, ahead of Wilt Chamberlain. And to this day in NBA history, he is the only player ever to lead the NBA in scoring and win Defensive Player of the Year. If you really want to go there looking at Jordan vs. Kareem in overall scoring, I'll go there, but you're not going to win that argument.
It's the audacious case that the guy with the most points, the most rings of the era, and the most league MVPs is better than Michael Jordan. It's an audacious case, but I just made it.
And looking at Nick Wright's final point, his main argument was Kareem having 6 championships, the most points all time, and more MVPs than Michael Jordan. Now for 1 second, think about that logic. That exact same line of thinking applies to LeBron versus Kareem. If that's Nick's true feelings, LeBron James is not better than Kareem, as Kareem to this date has more points, more MVPs, as well as more championships. And the overall gap in accolades between Kareem vs. Jordan is way smaller than Kareem vs. LeBron. And if you look back at Nick's overall list, till this day, he has not revealed number 1 or number 2. And right now in the moment, I'm willing to bet Nick Wright will put Kareem at number 1. And why I think this is Nick Wright is thinking ahead to this year in 2023, as LeBron James undoubtedly is going to pass Kareem in scoring. So what he's doing, he's heading the path of LeBron James to pass Kareem in scoring and crown him as the best player and the greatest player in NBA history. In my cynical eyes, it's pretty transparent, and I believe Nick Wright has ulterior motives to this top 50 list. As once again, he's a LeBron James superfan and will do anything to put LeBron on top. And to end this video with a bang, let's look at Kareem and kill his GOAT case. In Kareem's career, roughly a dozen times, he was outplayed in a playoff series by his opponent or even his teammates. Like I showed you guys, in numerous finals, he wasn't the best player, and in multiple ones, he wasn't even a top 3 player. And looking at his early career, the first 7 years, during that time period, the ABA was in existence, and you could very well argue they had more talent than the NBA at that point in time. And sticking with that era, Kareem in the 70s missed the playoffs not once, but twice during his prime. One more thing I do want to point out, Kareem compared to Jordan had way more Hall of Fame help and just talent in general. He had Oscar Robertson, Bob Dandridge, Gail Goodrick, Adrian Dantley, Jamal Wilkes, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, even Bob McAdoo. Those Lakers teams, even the Bucks teams, were absolutely loaded with stacked Hall of Fame talent. At the end of the day, looking at LeBron, Jordan, and Kareem, all these guys are great players. But one guy's resume is simply better than the rest, as Michael Jordan has less holes, a better peak, and a more dominant prime. Yes, LeBron and Kareem had better longevity and technically longer primes. But during those primes, despite playing more years, accomplished less than Michael Jeffrey Jordan.